All my fellas.
Gambling, also known as Gacha, has taken over the majority of Roblox games you'll see at the front page. From Blade Ball, Anime Adventures, or Skibbity Toilet Tower Defense, every single one of these games and a ton more has some sort of gambling system that can be extremely unhealthy considering its target demographic, which is kids. It's kind of unfortunate to see the amount of Roblox developers that take advantage of their young player base for a big paycheck instead of focusing on quality features to keep players engaged. But the question is, just how much are these developers abusing gacha? How damaging is this for Roblox and its player base, and should we continue exposing the youth to gambling? Ever since the rise of gaming, gambling has always been a part of it. When I think of old games with gacha/gambling, one that always comes to mind is CSGO. I'm sure most of you guys have at least heard of CSGO, but if you haven't, CSGO is a first-person offense versus defense shooter where Russian people yell at each other over voice chat and break keyboards. Within this game, there are cases you can open which contain cool skins, knives, guns, and more. The thing about these cases is the fact that they are opened up with real money via case keys, and for some cases themselves, they're not cheap. On top of this, the rare items are, well, super rare, rendering rare items to be price/valued very high. For perspective, if you were to type the rarest CSGO knife cost, you'll find that it's valued at $1.5 million. However, CSGO cases arguably are a huge part of the community and brought a lot of attention to CSGO as well, so it should be fine, right? Gambling is addictive and can form dangerous emotional attachments to rare things in video games. Before we continue, I just want to give you guys this trigger warning. Skillet, a popular CSGO YouTuber/streamer, unalived himself because of depression caused by his gambling addiction. Skillet was a huge CSGO gambler and his inventory was worth a lot of money. Unfortunately, due to complications, a certain ban caused him to lose his entire inventory, putting him into a depression. He became quiet on all of his social media, and on August 23rd, 2018, he was involved in an accident where he drove his McLaren into a Hyundai SUV, unaliving two along with himself. This case goes deeper, however, I personally do not know much other than the brief research I did, but I did mention this story because it showcases just how dangerous gambling and the addiction itself can be. The difference between CSGO and Roblox is the average age of the player base. Looking at the front page of Roblox, you can assume that the target audience is children. With CSGO, you can argue that the people that do open cases are less vulnerable to being emotionally attached to the items, or because of their fully developed brain, they are more emotionally aware and can choose when to stop. While not very smart, players that gamble in CSGO are overall more aware, which cannot be said with Roblox. With Roblox, it's hard to say that gambling in gacha is a good thing at all. It teaches the young player base to get excited and have their neurons fire when they see something rare. Personally, I love gacha, and whenever I see a game with codes or free rolls, regardless of the player count, regardless of the quality of the game, I can't help but roll, because hey, it's cool when you get something rare. At such a young age, the brains of the players aren't fully developed, which means many things. The concept of money itself hasn't cemented, emotional attachments to random but rare items are created more often, and the players aren't aware enough to choose when to stop. These are the exact reasons why there's an age requirement for casinos, but despite that, it doesn't stop the amount of gambling that is available on Roblox. What's even more unfortunate is how certain developers absolutely abuse how addictive gambling can be for kids. And because of its severity, I feel like it's fair to point out at least a couple of the culprits. Welcome to Blade Ball. At this point, everybody has heard of Blade Ball, a game where you reflect balls, and that's about it. The issue with this is that upon joining the game, you are met with three things. 1. A wheel, which constantly says it's on a discount, which makes me want to believe that they did that so players want to spend more money faster. It contains rare abilities and cosmetics exclusive to the wheel itself, meaning that those who want the cool and rare items are almost forced to spend money. 2. Crates, which if bought with the free currency they offer in the game, have way worse rates than if you were to buy with Robux, incentivizing players to not grind out the game, but to take a shortcut via dollar bills. Not to mention, grinding gold in the game takes forever. And 3. a special cool item that's only available for a limited time. This one isn't so much gambling, but it shows that the developers of Blade Ball try and display everything to paint their products in a very bright light, drawing in dopamine-hungry players in like moths in order to feel original and cool because they have a decently modeled sword. The rates for Blade Ball are very low. However, compared to this one part of Anime Adventures, it's not even close. Anime Adventures is a tower defense game featuring your favorite anime characters: Goku, Jana, Naruto, and Chunks, and more. The special thing about this tower defense game is that you can roll traits for your characters, with the best being the unique trait, which triples your damage. How rare is it? 1 in 25? 1 in 100? How about 0.1%, aka 1 in 1000? The way you roll traits is through reroll tokens, which if you pay for them is around 100 Robux for a single roll. Do the math. Let's assume your luck is super average. 100 times 1000 is 100,000 Robux you would need to have spent, and that's assuming you're not unlucky. I doubt that you need the unique trait. However, on YouTube there are a ton of YouTubers that hype up the unique trait by trying to constantly roll for them. The difference between your typical YouTuber and a Roblox Joe is the fact that they get paid for rolling for the trait, while the player will end up pouring tons of money just to get a damage buff. And finally, the final boss of Roblox games: Skibidi Toilet Tower Defense. Unfortunately, I needed to play this game in order to get background footage for you guys, and it was a lot of suffering. A couple of things to note is that for a single roll, you need 100 gold. Playing through the first level took me an actual 20 minutes of constant torture and only rewarded me with 50 gold, half of what I needed for just a single roll. However, right beside the summon page, there are buttons allowing you to buy, guess what? Gold with Robux. Despite the decently cheap price, they also have their best units at 0.1%. Which again is 1 in 1000. I just wanted to note that some of you guys may think that 1 in 1000 is not that rare. That just shows you and me how much Roblox has already corrupted you. Unfortunately, I'm a whole victim. There are several games that I've spent money on, and a ton of it as well. Look at the thumbnail of the video. You see that number? That's my spending in a year, and I'm not proud of it. I've recently been better at spending my expendable money. In fact, it's been a long time since I've inserted my card into the cheeks of hungry developers. But the two main games that did run me dry were Type Soul and Project Slayers. Project Slayers was very popular at the time. I saw people rolling for the 0.1% clans, and I wanted it too. There's a video I posted showcasing how much I spent. I'll spoil it for you though, it was a lot. Type Soul is a much smaller game based on the anime Bleach. In Bleach, people have cool abilities called Shikai, and I wanted one of the legendary ones. The issue with Type Soul was that at the time of me spending all my doubloons, there was no way to reroll your Shikai, unless you spent money. Both of these games are dead now, and I have a lot of money voided because of that. Most of you guys watching are not adults, and what I would strongly advise is that you never tap any kind of money on any kind of game. It'll spiral like it did for me and become addictive. We've gone over gambling, why gambling is bad, what it can do to the youth, and just some specific games that abuse gacha for profit as a whole. Side note, there's a lot more games on Roblox that try stealing your precious gold, but it'd be impossible to go over all of them. It's a huge mess. However, there are games on Roblox that do gambling properly. I know it sounds crazy, especially after all the bashing I did on gambling and it being exposed to the youth, but hear me out. Blox Fruits is just one of the few games that does gambling correctly. If you didn't know, Blox Fruits is a game based on the anime One Piece where you obtain cool abilities that come from devil fruits, level them up, and get cool items. Within this game, Blox Fruits are really hard to find. However, there's a Blox Fruit merchant which you can give money to in order to get a random fruit. This merchant takes in-game money, which is really easy to farm, and the price is based off of your level as well. On top of this, you are limited to rolling once per day. The main issues with youth gambling is the lack of concept of money as well as knowing when to stop. However, with the daily limit as well as the in-game currency price, Blox Fruits shows us that you can have your players coming back day after day without building a super harmful addiction. Players could spend money on in-game currency, however, because of the Blox Fruits shop, players have the ability to spend money on the fruits itself instead of gambling for it. Overall, while I don't play the game, Blox Fruits has a lot of respect for many of the features, the caring developers, and the care for the community community. Wrapping everything up, as players of the community, we should be aware of the dangers of gambling and gaming as a whole. It can be addictive, and because of that, emotional attachments to digital items can form, lots of money can be lost, and there's a high chance for an addiction to spiral out of control. We should also be aware of how hungry some developers are for money and the lack of care they have when it comes to their target demographic, which is the youth. Thank you for sticking to the end, sub to be a smart fella, not a fart smella, and comment what you think about all of this. And remember, 99% of gamblers quit before winning.